What's going on, guys? Bexio back, and today we got a brand new video on Plug Power. Kind of want to dive deeper into the numbers and financials of Plug versus the other companies that it gets looped in with, being Fuel Cell Energy and Bloom Power or Bloom Energy, and them being kind of in the same sector, grouped together a lot, and talked about. Whenever you see an article talking about Plug, they're usually talking about Fuel Cell and Bloom in there as well. But there's some interesting trends on why I think Plug is the stock that's going to win out in this hydrogen battle, just from the financial standpoint and analysts and things that are going on kind of behind the scenes that we've seen. But we can start by looking at Plug here on its daily chart. So this is something we're looking at short term, is a breakout of this downtrend. Obviously, we've been in this downtrend for a little over a week, maybe about 2 weeks now. And just seeing a break in the downtrend yesterday and kind of confirmation bouncing off it and going up higher. So that's something we're going to be looking at, trying to see if this actually breaks out and goes up towards this 39.46 level and ultimately try to get back in between these two levels of 39.46 and 47.95, basically $40 $48 within this range, which will probably be another consolidation range like we saw in this period. And maybe we see it break out to the upside again and try and climb higher, depending on news, everything that comes out. But short-term things, trying to get back to that $40 mark. If you zoom in a bit, you can kind of see it bouncing off. This is yesterday, and then these two are opens where we had a little bit more volatility, dipped under twice, but never closed under it, and then continued moving forward. So looking pretty decent for short-term stuff. I think that, we've broken the downtrend, pretty much confirmed it, breaking out. And our next goal, short-term goal, is to try and see how it interacts with $39, $40, barring any massive macro stock market thing going on where there's tons of fear pumped in. I think we're just getting over that fear that caused like this big downward spiral. Barring anything like that, maybe we see it start to move up. But if you want to compare Plug to these other companies like Bloom and Fuel Cell, then you have to look at their financials, and they tell a very different story between all three of them. So just a very quick Google search to try and get like easy just numbers to work with, not have to digging through the actual earnings. But you can see the biggest thing, and I have it highlighted here, is cash on hand that I want to look at right now, because it's going to be very important to have money to continue growing and paying for your business, because all three of these companies are growth stocks, and they're going to need to have money to pay for growth. And, they're not making any money yet, so they have to get to that point, be able to get there. So cash on hand, Plug has $3.37 billion. So they are really, really looking good with cash on hand. If we go and just do like a little calculation here and saying they're losing $106 million, but let's just make it even numbers. So $100 million a quarter. So they're losing $400 million per year right now. And if we were to do that by the cash on hand they have, that's 3.7 billion over the 400 million that they're spending. They have 8.4 years worth of money on their balance sheet that they can pay for without having to worry about running for 8 years. And for their projections, they should only have to worry about getting to 2024 to start making a profit and being profitable. They can finance themselves for 8 years with no worry, and they can use this money to acquire other companies, grow the company, do everything that needs to be done. So I just like the amount of money that they have on their balance sheet. They're ready for this taper that could come, and that's a debate if it'll ever actually happen. But even the short period of time, if it does happen, they're ready for it. Comparing that to like Fuel Cell, they have about almost half a billion of money on their balance sheet, and I think they're pretty strong in their balance sheet. I don't know, a lot about them, but just judging off of these numbers, they look like a pretty small company. Not doing crazy numbers, only lost 12 million, 18, 45, 18. So they're kind of, and they just recently raised this money actually to get here. So, but they're, doesn't look like a massive company. So half a billion or something, that's going to finance them for a while. But the problem is with Bloom Energy. These guys only have 121 million, and they lost 52 million dollars in the last quarter. So obviously they can't finance themselves very long. About a year they can finance themselves, well, without needing to dilute shareholders or somehow get more money. And if a taper comes in and cheap debt isn't an option anymore, then that's where you run into massive problems of how do you grow the company if you can't get the money to grow the company. But if you look at these guys as well, you can see revenue 249, 194, 228, 207, kind of stagnant and a little bit of a downtrend, so 250, and they haven't beaten that. Not a huge time period, but a little bit stagnant there. Fuel cell, you have 17 million, 14, 14, 26. So at least they went up for this last one. So they have a tick up. So they're kind of moving in the right direction. You look at Plug as well, you see a negative 300 million, then 71, 124, 143. So all of Plug is moving up in the right direction. They got good cash on hand. Their revenue is moving in the right direction, and their projections are getting better and better with every earnings call that they're having. So I just think that they are a super strong company. They look good, especially when you compare them to these other companies that Fuel Cell and Bloom, especially Bloom. Fuel Cell's balance sheet doesn't look that bad. They have the money to sustain themselves. I don't know when they're supposed to be profitable, what moves they're doing fundamentally to build out infrastructure and things, but their balance sheet looks like it could be all right. This is the problems running into Fuel Cell, and I think Bloom, but we'll start with Fuel Cell here. It actually has a moderate sell from analysts. It has downside projection for the next 12 months, 0 buys, 2 holds, 2 sells. So not a lot of analysts covering the stock. Take that as you will. And analysts aren't always completely right. But this is a bearish thing on Fuel Cell. And if you dig deeper into hedge funds, you actually see them starting to buy, adding 635K shares, but kind of died out in the downtrend year. They're probably net sellers and starting to kind of tick up. So good potential signs there, as well as insiders. You see, you do have some selling. So not great, but not a lot of selling. So the buys obviously outweigh the sells, and take that as you will. Insiders being more bullish, just like we see on Plug. Only difference is Plug doesn't have any sells that we've seen so far, but if we saw sells like this on Plug, I don't think it would matter that much. So Fuel Cell, it does look pretty strong. Its analysts not really on board with them. So quickly take that to look at Plug, the difference. So you see obviously moderate sell. This is a strong buy, 13 buys, 4 holds, 0 sells. So quite a lot more analysts covering the stock. $48 per share projection for 12 months. 32% upside compared to obviously 4% downside. And when you compare hedge funds, they increased by 405K shares, which is more money because Plug stock is worth more. So 405,000 shares times what you do roughly $25, $30, something like that, is more than the hedge funds here, which is 635K, but only at $6. So that's something to keep in mind. And then you compare the insiders. Look, this looks pretty good. And then Plug, we know, we've seen this chart all the time. We had massive insider buying earlier here in the summer. And then we had another insider buy here in October. So it's just, they're much more bullish. No selling since the summer. But it just looks very bullish from an insider perspective. Their earnings have gone very good, and everything looks good. So Fuel Cell and Plug, both together on paper, look like pretty strong companies. I going with Plug because I like their balance sheet, the business they're building out, the infrastructure they're building, everything that's going on with Plug. And I just haven't looked into Fuel Cell. Not really interested, and analysts and things show that it's kind of the same story. But we'll finally look at Bloom Energy. This also has a moderate buy from analysts, but this is kind of like the flip side of Fuel Cell. So you see a moderate buy, about $30 per share, some upside for the next 12 months. But if you dig into insiders, you see a mixed story, basically massive selling, not a lot of insider buying. So maybe telling you not as much confidence in the company from the inside, not a good look. And even worse, when you look at hedge funds, the guys with the most amount of money, they're not even interested in this stock. Obviously, there's no trend detected. They can't get this trend. Uh, so we just see them massively kind of buying all the way up here, probably becoming net sellers and not becoming interested even during this time right here. And I think that has to do with the balance sheet. Not a lot of cash on hand, a potential taper coming. Things are coming where it's not going to be easy to get money, provide money, and grow the company if you don't already have that money. So, outstanding problems right there. They're just kind of the hydrogen kind of stocks, green energy stocks that are battling it out, that always get compared to each other when they are any articles written. It's always Plug Power, Fuel Cell, Bloom, always looking at each other's, comparing what's going on with everyone. And I think, Plug has the most powerful balance sheet. They have a pure upgrowth in revenue so far right now. And they have enough money to sustain themselves to profitability, which is supposed to happen in 2024. If they don't hit that, we have a whole new conversation on, whether it's worth holding the stock or not by then. But time will tell. And I just think Plug's the most powerful one with a balance sheet and the infrastructure they're building out, everything they're doing. I just think Plug is the leader. But that's going to do it for this video. Let me know what you guys think, if which one of these three is the best in hydrogen, or if there's an outside one that is better than all of these guys. But as always, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. I'll see you guys in my next